Hey guys, I wanted, I hope you're happy. I wanted to do a quick recap of the event that I attended. AmaHlubi ngiyawathanda through their outfits. If you know my page, you would see that there's some wedding attire that we hire out. It looks amazing. But yeah, so I was attending their annual celebration. So we're different Bahlubi from different areas come together and talk, network, grow, and connect. So it was quite interesting, and I just want to dig deep into it because what happened was when I started posting it, then people started having conflicting comments. Like there's some people that don't regard AmaHlubi at all as there should be like a dynasty or a kingdom that is recognized in South Africa. And vele kune court case that is currently ongoing on that. Ukuthi-ke, they're not officially recognized. So this really got me to dig deep into it so that because into engiyaziyo is through stuff that you can Google and we're gonna go through it. So we're on the same page. But this is just such a great teaching or learning moment for us to reflect because we don't know what what's the story behind all of this. We know a bit of Zulu history, but I don't know if we know it entirely or if maybe there is some parts that are just missing in history. And that's why cinema social media platform so that we can fill in the gaps. So that sparks the curiosity. So I'm just going through it, desktop research really, in terms of trying to find out what to get AmaHlubi ubani and what's holding this recognition case. Is it the government? Was it government ubandlululo, or the current government, or the tribes themselves? Because judging from our comments, khona nje abantu abathi-ke, no, you guys, there's only one Bayede, and it got me thinking, was this what Shaka was fighting for? So, sibe one nation. Because when you look at history, AmaHlubi were one of the most powerful tribes before King Shaka. At their height, AmaHlubi were considered the most powerful kingdom before the rise of the Zulu kingdom under Ushaga. So did the fall happen there? Or what's the story? What's holding back? Because there's so many people. When you were here listening to my speeches, we event, you would hear again, somebody spoke about how AmaHlubi were the motherboard of all these other nations, like the Swazis and but they are officially recognized, but not AmaHlubi. So what's the problem? But yeah, so the event was fun. I got to see a display of color, of beauty, of pride, and culture. So that for me is always a win, because there's so much to Umuntu Omnyama that it's just nice when we come together and we honor ourselves and we remember our heroes, our fallen heroes, and there was a bit of history also being shared with us. That's where the curiosity also just brightened up, because Inkosi Libalele, which is a district or a municipality that's running Masipala Lime Jays, is named after. Was the first king that was sent to Robben Island, because he was the first to lead the resistance. 100 years before Mandela, and Rivonia trial and all of that. He was the first a king to say nah, So so there's a lot there. There's a lot there that I think we need to give ourselves the time and the energy to dig in deeper, because we might be shooting ourselves in the foot if I see delve into it. You know, if I see Sisi, ama kingdoms to how were they structured, what caused the collapse, and how now are they surviving. And that's a thing that we need to do ourselves as abantu abamnyama, because we can't outsource that. We can't outsource it to the very government that destroyed the structure. Fine, tribes were fighting vele at all times, because at that time it was time for grab land. So they've been fighting and trying to conquer. Game of Thrones, when you look at it. So I just want to find out what's happening, what's holding this thing. But is it Itina? Ngoba maybe Shaka did win. He did conquer everyone and made us all AmaZulu, which is a tribe on its own. AmaHlubi, namaThetho, namangu, different names are all royal houses. If you funa understand kahle history of which not khona funa si understand. So ngizoqala la imtshezi ngibheke ukuthi, because I mean it's always good to start home and find out who's uNkosi Langa Libalele, what's the story there, and what's his dynasty or his kingdom about, and what's happening to it, because ngihlala under kuyo, and then broaden it to go to KZN. KZN is run by the Zulu king. And then find out, because there's nothing wrong with discovering or rediscovering who you are and where you fit in this whole shebang. Because the other thing in Yazi, which is that we get caught up in politics as if politicians are the ones who own land, even though Manjasegi Boba own a land more than the kings. But I still think the kings own a lot of land, and people still answer a lot to their kings. And it's as if they've forgotten. We don't talk about them. They don't make news unless they're fighting for something. We don't see, they're not in our faces enough to see development. And they're not running, front rows, except for the Zulu king, because we know a little bit of the Zulu king, and he's got media support and stuff like that. So the other kings, what happens to them? So we need to find ourselves within this whole web of South Africa. Find ourselves, who we are. So as I'm positioned again, I'm just interested in it. So I'll be doing a series just to see if we know the same things, and what are the gaps that we are missing, and who can tell us, because we need to also check your source, because most of our sources are coming from white written media or platforms, and Abelung have always had an agenda. So I do not know if we need to rewrite our own history. I'm not there. I'm just saying, do we know the same things, so that we know what our issues are? But yeah, thanks for hosting me. There were a lot of food we ate. It was fun. Gift of the Givers was there to also hand out some food parcels and blankets. So that was great. Politicians were also there assuring their support, different political houses, to assure their support to the kingdom, and also confirming that if we really want a success moving forward, we need to let the kings run, because they hold the land, or the majority of the land, and their people. So they need to be at the forefront. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having us. And let's see how far we go with the series of unpacking AmaHlubi and their history.